Heart on the matter. Heart on the matter.
Hey guys, thank you and welcome to another episode of Heart of the Matter. We are your hosts, Marcus and Scott. This is a podcast that takes a deep dive into the issues of a man's heart, and it is our attempt to present to you practical ways for a man to be centered in all areas of his life. We are so grateful that you're joining with us. If you have any questions, do us a favor. Comment, like, click the subscribe button. We would love to have you to continue to grow with us. Today, we're going to be discussing an interesting topic, how to find your people, how to cultivate friendships. So with no further ado, let's get at it.
Today we will be talking about three different viewpoints of how to build better friendships. The first one will be friendship versus acquaintances.
Okay.
The second will be building friendships that last. That's something that doesn't always happen. Sometimes friendships are short-lived. Sometimes they're lifelong. Just
Okay.
depends on how it goes. And the last will be that the bonds of brotherhood don't have to be viewed as feminine. They can be viewed in a masculine sense, and friends can be true friends, when sometimes the world views it as a different thing.
So you going in already? Because it sounds like that's gonna be the first topic. Because you got me on like, huh?
I don't think it'll be the first topic, but
Okay,
it'll
we'll come back.
We'll
to that.
come back at it.
All right.
So let's go ahead and get to the heart of the matter.
Let's get to the heart of the matter. So, as friends or with friends, I think we teased this topic before, and we were saying, how many followers do you have?
Who are
Or
your
how,
friends?
or how many friends do you have on your social media?
Are your friends online really your friends?
Are they really your friends?
Do you know them? Or is it just somebody that you found going on the internet?
Okay. So you talked about friendships versus acquaintances. So let's start there. What do you think defines the difference between someone being an acquaintance and being your friend?
I think that you have to build relational equity with someone to really be a friend. And I guess that sometimes there's a spark when you meet somebody, you're like, oh, wow, that person's got a lot of the interests that I've got. And as you start talking to them, you realize, oh, wow, that person likes sports. I like watching sports. Or, hey, we go to the same church, or we work together. But I think as the relationship goes on, it gets deeper.
Okay.
It becomes more intimate, and you realize, wow, oh man, me and this guy really click. And there's things that we can strengthen one another in.
Okay.
I'll start off with this. We've been friends. I'd say we've been acquaintances for 5 years.
I was gonna say I think we're still acquaintances.
We could be still acquaintances, but that's your viewpoint. I view you as a friend. And the way that we were going to a church at one time, and we were both there, and we knew each other, but we didn't have any relational equity in that.
Okay.
Yeah, we saw each other, we passed, we may even speak to each other.
Right.
But I didn't know who you were. You didn't know my family. I didn't know your family. And there was a speech that you gave one time, and you brought up the word biracial.
Okay.
My children are biracial,
Okay.
and I stand strong on them being respected and called biracial. And when you said that, it sparked something in me to say, oh, he's intentional. And you might not even have been, but to me, I felt like that.
Biracial versus
Mixed.
Oh, okay. So I just wanted you to bring that
Yeah.
today. Like, why is that a big deal?
Yeah, because I feel like mixed is a derogatory term.
Gotcha.
And biracial is what my children are. They are white and black.
Right. Absolutely.
And when you said that, I was like, oh, wow, this guy said something that sparked something in me that we can talk about. And I believe that is where our friendship began to grow from.
I remember you coming to me after that and saying how much you appreciated me using that. And then for me, in the moment, it wasn't necessarily a big deal, but it's exposure. My wife is biracial, and she's neither black nor white. She's both black and white. And I often tease and say she's both Karen and Carisha at the same time. You don't know which one you're gonna get. It's the truth. And so you were talking about friendship starting because of common interest. Maybe it's something that we do together. It's sports. As men, it could be military. It could be a fraternity. It could be we worship in the same place. We go to the same gym, or we like the same sport. So it can start off from a common interest to something that we have that we both like or that we both agree with. But that doesn't necessarily, I think that is what makes you acquaintances.
But yeah, so you're acquaintance at that point. But I believe that both parties at some point have to be intentional about growing it from an acquaintance to a friendship.
Absolutely.
And it takes both sides, because if one side doesn't view it as a friendship, it's only acquaintance to them. The other side might view it as a friendship. And so there has to be at some point, both parties have to realize, oh, this is going deeper than acquaintances.
I think I kind of spoke about it in the last pod when I said there's a lot of people, or there's several people who have said to me, "Oh, you're my best friend," and it makes me feel weird because it's almost like I'm supposed to say, "Oh, you're my best friend too," but that's not a term that I throw around. I was in the 7th grade when I made somebody my best friend, and thankfully that's still my boy to this day. But people that I respect, and I think respect is going to be when you're talking about being intentional. I could break this thing down to basically 3 points, and I had to ask myself if I'm looking into a friendship, which I don't know that I really do. I've said this for years. Like, I'm not looking for friends. I have a strong core of men that grew up with me. We're talking about 30 plus year relationships at this point. But there are other people who have come in the middle of that I have become friends with, and it is because I treat people the way that I want to be treated. And I think that's really, if you are looking for someone to develop a meaningful relationship with, you should ask yourself, what is it that you're looking for in a friend? And then you yourself should be that. I think the Bible even says that for a friend should
Must show himself friendly.
must show himself friendly. I'll
There's a lot of times
butcher that.
that
Yeah.
I do not show myself friendly.
Yeah.
And I know that I can't, there's times when I'm not the best friend. I was talking earlier, we were just, kicking it before we got on. And I have friends that I felt like they were somewhat needy. And man, I'm like, man, why is this dude always bothering me? And man, this dude be sweating me all the time. And because I wasn't being a good friend, I didn't realize this guy was really trying to look out for my best interest. He was really trying to say, hey, Scott, how are you doing, man? Is everything all right in your life? But for me, it was more like, man, this dude is tripping, man. He's always on one.
So you when you said you felt like he was needy, you were only looking at it from one perspective. There was no empathy involved where you're thinking about them. You're only thinking about you.
Well, a lot of times, I mean, growing up, my feelings, I had sheltered my feelings inside, and I really didn't want to show them. And so with that being said, I was like, man, why is this guy always messing with me, man? He always want to talk about stuff that I don't want to talk about. I don't want. He's trying to get too personal with me, man. I like this superficial level. This superficial level works for me. We ain't got to go no deeper. Hey, man, you can ask me about that basketball game,
Right.
man, but don't ask about how my life's going.
Right. I think for most acquaintances, they live on a superficial level. I think I'm very much like that. I will meet you where you are. most people are superficial. When you speak to someone, hey man, what's up, man? Oh, I'm good. Or hey man, how's it going? "Oh, man, everything's fine. Everything's cool. A lot of people are hoping that that's that's the response that you give, because anything else is going to
Involve an effort.
it's going to take more from me. It's
And
gonna
all of a
require more of
sudden,
me.
I'm in this conversation with somebody that I don't want to be in. I'm here an hour later trying to help this guy through a problem, and I wasn't expecting that.
Right.
So now I am intentional. If I ask somebody that question and their response comes back is, man, brother,
It's rough right now.
it's rough right now, man. I'm going through some stuff.
Yeah.
I have to learn how to listen to that just as well as the superficial.
So Bible says, Proverbs 17:17, a friend loves at all time and a brother is born for adversity. I think when you're on an acquaintance level and it's really superficial, it's easy for things to be cool when there's no tension. I think that you can find out who are really your friends, or if you are really a friend, if there is adversity, and then the two of you can work through that and grow through that. What I mean, I think I said this on the other pod as well. I can't have a yes man. I think that my personality sometimes is intimidating to some people, and we've talked about this before. And I don't want to go into alpha males or sigma males and all that type of stuff. Maybe that's for another pod. But I think that manly men can kind of see when someone isn't, and just part of our personality. And I say our, you could opt out of it as not, but we've already had the conversation without y'all being present. When we see that, we kind of like mess with people. We poke with people just to see where you are. And I respect when someone is not intimidated and can call me out, or you know what I mean, can stand 10 toes down and look me when we talk. And that's kind of one of the keys, and people will start doing this. If you're really not a manly man, maybe this will help you out. When you're having a conversation with anyone, but especially another man, look them in their eyes. When I'm talking to someone and your attention starts going all over the place, and I'm trying to talk to you right here, I'm like, I don't think that I'm going to say what Scott would call you.
You know, and there's been times when you have told me specific situations, right? Hey,
Okay.
watch for me.
Yeah.
If you see me doing this,
Yes.
come intervene
Yes.
quickly.
Yes.
And when you tell me something like that, I'm going to do it. I feel like at that point, I'm my brother's keeper.
Yes.
And you've told me to be in this situation, and I've done it.
Yes.
And there's times when I'm like, man, I don't know if I want to go up here right now. But because you've told me that, I'll stand right up there in it.
So we're going to talk about it, or we're not going to talk about it? So
It's up to you.
So I have an issue, or I have had an issue with the attraction of women, and because I keep myself within a close boundary, I said to my brother one day, I said, "Hey man, I'm giving you permission that if you ever see anything that you think is questionable, you see me talking to somebody, or especially for me, but if you see it from them as well, you have my permission to come up and block on that." And I can tell you, there's been less than a handful of times, but I could be having a conversation with somebody and Scott come right up in the mix, like, "Hey MJ, what's up? You good?"
You're
Like,
invited to my house tonight with your wife.
yes. One particular instance, I was helping another sister here at our church, and I was just simply helping to put some food and some things to serve, just helping out. It was really no more than that. Scott rolls up. "Hey, what's up, MJ? Hey, what's up, man? Hey, I mean, you know your wife is always invited to my house." Yeah. I like anytime. She can come with you at any time. Like, oh, okay. I'm good. But I appreciated that. And we laughed about it later. But I know that because you know where I am and where I want to be, and I've given you permission to call me out on that you're gonna do it. And I appreciate that. And I say that before God covered in everybody.
And I think that's one of the main differences between a friendship and acquaintance. A friend holds another friend accountable. An acquaintance doesn't feel like he has that relational equity with that person to do that. An acquaintance feels like I don't know if I should get involved in that. A friend is always going to hold a friend accountable when they see them in a situation that they don't feel like they should be in.
And if I hear you correctly, you're saying trustworthy. I said, I think at the beginning, I broke it down basically to 3 points: trustworthy, an active listener, and respect. And for me, respect is always going to be on the top of my list. I'm a father of 2 children, a boy and a girl, and that's really like the only rule that I have. Respect yourself and then respect others. And just because someone is being disrespectful doesn't give you a license to thereby be disrespectful as well. So I lead with respect. I expect respect because I give respect.
I'll say that's one area I work in. I'll say that's hard for me personally when I'm being disrespected to just accept that.
So to show consideration for others or for someone else, but to basically put it simple, to treat someone in a way that no less than you would yourself would want to be treated. Respect. If you know that you wouldn't want to be treated a particular way or handled a particular way, then you should be conscious of how you treat someone else. And I think that level of respect goes a long way. And I think that can open the doors from being just an acquaintance level to the level of friendship.
Because, that's something that we've discussed too. It seems like some people just have this natural ability to draw other people.
Man, yeah.
And there's times when, man, I don't want to draw other people. I'm cool with what I got. I've got my handful of friends. I'm good. But man, it's constantly guys. It's and I would say in right now with I oversee a men's ministry, and it's like guys just flood to talk and want to be acquainted. And there's days when I'm like, man, why is this the way it is? Why can some people have an abundance of people and others can have a lack?
One must show himself friendly. And when you have a calling, then there's a responsibility. I'm hearing all of the principles of the heart philosophy that's in here as we're going through it. And I didn't want to like necessarily pick them out every
Yeah.
pod that we talk about, but you have a responsibility because of the position that you're in. And oftentimes that takes a place of humility. It cannot always be about me, and it has to be about others. I've often said to myself that I want to make myself available because I don't know if I am the last line of defense or the first line of offense. You're using words that I want you to like make clearer for the people. You keep using the term relational equity, like what that means, and then basically you're saying that we've intentionally spent time and talking. I said active listener, so you're hearing where the other person is coming from. And if I don't fully understand, let me understand. It sounds like what you're saying is so that I get clarity on what it is. And I'm not just taking what you said and like, oh, I know what he meant. Right.
Well, most of the time people, when you're having a conversation, when we're sitting here talking off the podcast, we're just talking, most people sit and they think while somebody's talking to you, they're sitting in their head thinking about what the next thing to say is.
The response.
The response. They're constantly thinking about the response. So instead of listening to what the person is actively saying, they're thinking, oh, what can I say next? They're waiting to jump in for the next, what's the next key point?
Absolutely.
And so you have to become an active listener. Hey, listen. And sometimes you even got to take context clues. That person may not be telling you what the real story is.
So that's when you ask, am I hearing what you're saying? So when I was saying an active listener, you have to ask yourself, am I the friend that I'm looking for? So am I being supportive? Am I really listening to you, or am I only listening to respond, which I think could be a totally different pod and totally different conversation outside of brotherhood and men being friends. This might touch on having a conversation with your wife, or a strong conversation, which most people probably call an argument or a fight. I think that people are oftentimes listening only to respond. You said something that cut, so I ain't heard nothing else that you said, and I can't wait for you to shut up just so I can. I got one coming back for you.
And that's where we talked about respect. Would you say that if somebody says something that cuts you, should you just let it go?
No, I'm definitely not saying let it go. And I'm with you on working through how I come back, or how I get an understanding, how I clarify what I think I heard based on what I thought that you said. I am one that I'm going to come back to you, to your face. You talked about this point about brotherhood or men's friendships not having to be feminine. And I really wanted to go in on that. That men can have relationships. You use the word intimate, and I think that it's important that we address that word intimate. I think is like a hot button. We hear intimate, and the only thing we hear is physical intimacy, and it is much more than that. And that is not what we're talking about when we're talking about having brotherhood type relationships. Intimate is just being able to see into someone deeply beyond. We talked about being surface level, and going beyond that into who a person really is, how they really think, and how things make them feel. A deeper side of me, more so than just, hey, bro, what's up? Hey, I'm cool. Hey, the Lakers gonna win the next championship next year because they didn't get it done this year. You know what I mean? Whatever. How you think? What's really on your mind? What are your deepest thoughts? You know what I mean? And not meant even like Tommy gunning it like that. Just, I'm feeling anxious about this. I'm overwhelmed about that. Me and my wife was having an argument about this, and the kids or this. You know what I mean? The things that we talk about all the time. Those are the things that I think grow friendships. Versus, you see people in a common what do we say? Common interest place. So we met in the place where we fellowship. I think, sadly, most people in those circles only know the person that they see within that hour and a half, 2 hours that they are in that common interest place.
They have no relational equity after that.
Outside of those walls of worship,
And that's one
they
thing
have no
we've
idea of
been-
each other. Yes.
We've been intentional about
That's where the
building
intentionality-
relationships
Yeah.
with other guys outside of the walls where we fellowship.
Absolutely. Because I think that is a very limited, the way that is done, it often limits people. But I think the work that is supposed to be done within those walls of worship, the intention is for you to take that and then take it out. People don't really care about how much you worship the Lord inside your building at a predetermined hour. It's not until you bring that outside of that, and people can see in you a genuine love for people, a desire to see people grow, and to be in a better place within themselves, within their relationship with God. I think that's where what we do on Sunday morning, only because we brought that up, that's where our common interest started. It really doesn't matter if that stays within the four walls of the building. That has to be taken out for other people to see. And just on a very superficial level, when they see us hanging together, the black guy and the white guy,
We doing this?
people, hey man, people, they want to know what's going on. And you talked about being feminine, it's always funny to me because you're always real conscious of how people looking at us, like they gonna think we're a couple or something like that. I don't worry about that because that ain't on my radar. That ain't my thing. You know what I mean? And it would be funny. Again, most people, they don't have whatever it is to be upfront and direct about that. So people can think whatever they want to. Very few people will be like, "Hey, what's going on here? You guys together?" Bruh. Now I'm now I'm have to pray. He really does need Jesus. Be like, bro, I don't even know that I would be. I think this is where the double down comes in. Because I'm gonna be like, bro, like that's really what you thought. Like you're so far off. For you to double down on that and interject that that's really what you think. Now the tides are turning. now we're about to have a different conversation. So what I had said was, that's my twin brother. Yeah, we look a little different, but that's what that is. So we cool. Anything outside of that is on your stupidity. And I'm gonna make sure that you understand that that's your stupidity.
And there's countless times when guys have told us, man, y'all are the only two guys that at our where we worship at that have asked me, hey, how I'm doing. There's countless times of how we've built friendships just from being concerned about a person comes in and we just say, hey, how you doing today?
Not leaving it within the four walls.
And being intentional about, hey, man, you want to go just hang out sometime? Just kick it.
Right. I think that's important. So being intentional, if you are wanting to build relationships that are worth something, it has to be something that you're going to put some work into. And in a place of not so much looking at what I can get out of it as much as I look at what can I give to it. And I think that is a change in most people's natural perspective, because I just think that in our culture, it's very selfish. It's about me. It's about what I want. It's how I want. And to consider someone else and their benefit, or them being concerned about them being better, is not necessarily something that's normal.
Because many times you become better by helping somebody else.
Yeah.
Unknowingly,
Absolutely.
you giving them something helps you more than you ever know, because you really don't know how much you've got inside of you till you start pouring out.
Am I conscious about helping you feel better about yourself? And in doing so, because that was my genuine concern, I'm also growing as well. And I think that's a good way to look at that as well. Am I a safe space for you? So can you come and talk to me about something and feel confident that whatever we talked about is going to stay right here? Or do you have to worry about when we're done here, then I got to take the tea and take it over and have a conversation with, even if it's another brother, or I got to go home and when I'm having pillow talk with my wife, I got to talk about what Scott got going on over in his house, and that's not a thing.
And that's kind of different than where I was headed.
Okay, my bad.
No, I appreciate that. But when, like, say somebody is disrespectful to you and they say something, I don't think that it's necessarily right for you to be disrespectful back to them. I think you have to do it in an appropriate manner. Just because somebody cuts don't mean you can cut. It doesn't give you the right to cut them too.
Oh, absolutely. I said that in how I'm attempting to raise my children. And I think giving people grace to grow was one of the points that I wanted to talk about in the respect. Do I make you feel like you can be yourself around me? And I said something, and maybe I said it out of passion. I was really passionate about whatever the topic was. And my intent wasn't to offend, but you were offended. Do you clap right back after that, or do you again get more clarity? Do you try to understand? Say, man, so you said this. I felt like you were saying this. Then that gives you the opportunity to double down on what you said and like, no, that's what I meant. Or no, I didn't mean that at all.
And double down is different. Double down is where I tend to personally become offensive,
Right.
because now you've told me that's exactly what I meant. Well, okay, we're gonna have to get some better clarity on where this is going, because if this is how you're feeling, this is how I'm feeling. And I do believe that you can have a difference of opinions and work
Oh,
it and
absolutely.
work it out.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where I have to come and I have to say, okay, how do we work this out? And that might be where I say, hey, we're really acquaintances. This does not go further than that. This is definitely not somebody that I could hang with and just chop it up with all the time.
Yeah, I said that just because someone is disrespectful doesn't give you the license to
Yeah.
be disrespectful back. But I think that, again, being intentional, if I'm cool with us being acquaintances and you've made it clear that what you were saying was trying to offend me, then I don't think we have room to move beyond this, at least at this time. Maybe at a later time we can come back and address. But if you're doubling down on a place that I've already told you I'm offended and you're going to stick with that, then we probably don't have room to be any more than acquaintances in this place.
And it was something else we were talking about was like vetting friendships. It was down in, and how do you find out who your true friends are? And I think it goes back to just what you said. Are you trustworthy? Do you treat me with a level of respect? Am I the one that's always the butt of the joke? And man,
Gotcha.
wow, are we? Am I just here? Am I just a token white dude in this conversation? And a lot of people are like that.
Okay.
And I try not to. Just because me and you can joke about some things, don't mean I can joke with everybody, because that it can be offensive to other people. We have to be very sensitive of how we have conversations that are just me and your conversations against a group of men.
Because they haven't put in that time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I know where you stand on things. I know if you say something to me, you're not saying it to offend me. You're probably saying it to make me laugh or to joke with me.
But I'm also the guy that if you are offended, we can have that conversation. Again, that's what I'm saying. How did that land? What I said and what you heard can be two totally different things.
And there's been conversations that me and you've had where we do not agree
No.
on the end result. And we may not still today, but we've come to a place where we can say, okay, we can continue on in this friendship.
Yeah.
Even though because it's not a major topic that made us not, that offended us so much that, hey, this has got to quit.
I think it strengthens a friendship when you can have disagreeing opinions, and that's okay. That's how you feel about it. That's how I feel about it. Or if it's something where you're trying to get me to see the best of myself, or I'm trying to get you to see better of yourself, then that tension sometimes may be needed for you to grow. If you can see something that maybe is a negative to me, or could become a negative, just like calling you into, or you seeing where that conversation looks a little bit too comfortable. Let me just make sure, you know what I mean?
That we're clear on this.
Everything is good. If I get all offended, like, dang, bro, you all up in, I'm just having a conversation, I'm chilling. That tension might be where it's an opportunity for me to grow, and I'm blind to, there's a blind spot that I'm not seeing.
Because one thing for me is I like seeing the world from somebody else's viewpoint. Because I'm 48 years old. I've seen this from one viewpoint my whole life. And when people tell me stuff, I say, wow, I've never seen it that way.
Right.
It might seem offensive the way I was looking at it, but it really isn't. That's just another viewpoint from somebody else that was not raised like me, that did not come up with like I did. And it really interests me to see things from other people's, the way they view the world.
Absolutely. You're not seeing it through, you don't have a tunnel view or tunnel vision on just the way things are. I'm open to having a discussion and maybe considering, again, here's the respect part, considering something from another viewpoint.
I think that this is a topic that we could come back to multiple times, because we haven't even scratched
I don't
the
even think
surface of of what true friends and what it takes to become that kind of friend to somebody else.
This is one of those topics. And I think that as we do this and as we give ourselves grace to grow in this podcasting, as we grow Heart of the Matter podcast, there will be topics that we may have to come back and revisit, maybe a part 2, maybe a part 3. I think from the last podcast that we did, uncovering rejection or recovering from rejection, I think we really just kind of scratched the surface on that. And that will be another topic as we go down the line or grow down the line that we'll come back and visit. But as we are with this and being friends, I think that, am I trustworthy? Am I an active listener? Do I have respect? And am I being intentional about growing this relationship? I think that if you're in a place and you have acquaintances, I think, again, asking yourself, am I the friend that I want? And working from that perspective would make you a much better friend. At this point, and I'm still like this, I'm not taking applications for friends. I have a core group of men that I've grown up with. We're talking 30 plus relationships. My fear now is at 48 losing one of my friends. Last year, I lost one of my brothers. Shouts out to Michael Hendricks, Big Mike. One of my brothers passed away last year, and it really made me start looking at how I do relationships a lot closer, a lot more closely than I had before, taking it for granted. You have these visions of, oh, we're gonna be old men sitting around chopping it up, cutting up like we did when we was kids, and then to suddenly have somebody really close to you not there, it should make you start to cherish the relationships that really do mean something to you. So that's kind of where I am right now.
And we weren't taking applications when we became friends.
No.
It wasn't like we all of a sudden, oh man, this is gonna be great. No, it just came together.
Right.
And we put the work in to become better friends. And we still got work to do.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not done, but in closing, we all need friends.
Yeah.
We all need somebody that'll hold us accountable, that will tell us when we're doing wrong. You have to have somebody that'll stand up in your life and say, man, look, I know something ain't right and we need to work it out.
Yeah.
We can't have this lone wolf mentality of where I can just stay by myself and I'll make it through. You might can, but I'll tell you, there'll come a day when you're going to look for somebody and say,
you're gonna need someone.
You're going to need someone.
Absolutely. Hey, at the beginning of this podcast, we were acquaintances. Now I think we're friends.
Now we're friends.
Guys, I think that wraps it up for today. Thank you for joining us on Heart of the Matter. We're so glad that you chose to spend some time with us, to grow with us. If there was something that was said today that resonated with you, please click like, share, click on that subscribe button. Grow with us as we continue to attempt to bring you good content, as we take a deep dive into the issues of a man's heart, and try to present ways that would allow us to be centered in all areas of our life. We are your host. I'm Marcus.
I'm Scott.
Until next time, we are the Heart of the Matter. See you right here.
Heart of the matter.